our objective is to be, competitive as heck, kind of take care of each other, get out of here healthy, and hopefully the people that are here to watch today have a good feeling about their football team when they walk out of the stadium.
June will be the next time you get together after this?
The guys will be back here to start. Well, they have a week of school, and then they have finals, and then they get a little time off in May, and then they'll report back to actually start working on the 29th of May. They'll come back to campus. The 30th we'll have a team meeting. They actually start back on the field the 31st with Coach King and his staff. And then as a coaching staff, you get like a couple hours a week that you can work with them. And so, great timing on that, huh?
Yeah, really.
And so, we'll get to them. But they need a break. I mean, they've had a tremendous offseason, in my opinion. Their attitude has been outstanding, better than I've ever seen. Their commitment has been, just really impressive to see. I think they tasted a little bit of what success tastes like last year, and they want more of it. And that's, to me, been demonstrated in everything they've done since the day we got back in January.
So with a full season and a pretty good season under your belt and a full year here, does what you're doing now versus what you were doing last year around this time feel different?
Yeah, it really does. It's just that year makes a big difference. And then kind of the time after the season where you're able to reflect on it, I think a lot of growth takes place in that time. But, primarily on the offensive side of the ball, we look like a different team. I told you guys a lot last year, and it was probably hard to believe at times that, Nick is a very creative guy that loves play action, shots down the field, being exotic formationally and with motions. And just because of the circumstance last year, being our first year, together, the change in this first game at quarterback, the loss of a couple of receivers early in the season, Nick wasn't able to do a lot of things he wanted to do. And I don't know how much of it you see today because this is being streamed, and we don't necessarily want to, in case NC State or somebody's watching it, we don't want to show too much. And that's not being paranoid. I think it's being smart. Some people think it's paranoid. But I've seen tremendous growth offensively, and I think it's because we're a year into it, and it's been impressive.
How have the newcomers, Coach, assimilated themselves to the program, the transfers?
Well, that's something you always worry about, in this new world of the transfer portal. You have to be so careful about who you bring in because it's like speed dating. Recruiting is like a long-term relationship. You start getting to know these players at an early age, you know their families, you know their backgrounds, you develop these relationships, and so you feel a sense of comfort when you sign a high school recruit. The portal makes it difficult because it's you don't know these young men as well, but we've been really lucky, and I think it's because we've been selective and picked the right players, and they've assimilated very, very well into what we're doing. And then that would include some of the early enrollee high school kids, who we do know well. They've assimilated very well. I think about Jackson Harper and Tucker McDonald and Zach Droughty and some of the others, Karsten Cassidy. These guys are supposed to be in high school right now, getting ready for prom or graduation, and they're going to be out here playing college football, and yet they've all just stepped up and really shown tremendous growth.
Jim, one of the strengths of your team is your line play in terms of returning talent. Talk about the spring that those guys have had both on the offensive and defensive lines.
Well, playing on the offensive line, so much of it is about being cohesive as five players playing together. And, they were pretty darn good last year, and they're just better now because the more reps you take together, the more meeting time you have together watching the film, the more you have, the deeper understanding you have of what you're trying to do, the better you're going to be, especially when you're good players. Those guys hold each other to a high level of accountability. That's a different group now. They meet on their own. They get together in the indoor on their own and work. They go above and beyond anything we ever ask of them as a group to do, and they do it, peer to peer. And you just see, like, as a head coach, it's really a nice feeling when you can count on your offensive line. And it's not just the starting five. I think we have really good depth there. And there's times when a guy might get dinged in practice, have to miss a play or two, and someone else goes in there, and you just don't notice a difference. And I think Gordy's done a great job, and I think the players have done an amazing job of just, like, holding each other to a really high standard.
How's the center position shaken out?
Well, it's in flux. I mean, you know, we've been working Christian Haynes there some, and he's really impressive there. I think the most important thing for us to do, Dom, is find like the best combination of three to play the two guards in the center and put them in the best spots for him. And I don't think we know yet what that is. You know, it was pretty evident last year with Jake that he was going to be the center. But right now, you know, and it's a positive. It's not a negative. It could be conceived as a negative, but you know, it's a good rotation in there. Christian is an NFL guard and an NFL center. He is a really outstanding player. When you see him snap the ball and the quickness off the ball, it's really impressive.
So does he embrace that changing, and maybe that it might actually help his draft stock if he
Yes.
goes?
Yeah, I think that if I were evaluating Christian as an NFL evaluator, I would see him as a center, probably with the ability to play guard. In the NFL, on Sundays you suit up 7, so you know that means you're suiting up 3 tackles and you're suiting up 4 interior guys, and so you want a guy that can do both, that can play center and play guard, and so his stock will certainly go up because of his ability to do both things.
What are some of the questions you have kind of coming out of spring that you're still trying to find out about your team?
My concerns would be linebacker depth. I think, you know, we need to continue to really develop linebacker depth, whether it's through some additions in the portal or continuing to obviously work with our guys. You know, after Keelan and AT decided to enter the transfer portal, you know, I have a slight concern at receiver, although I think we're much further along than we were last year, and we've got some guys on the radar that'll, you know, hopefully be entering this program soon. And other than that, I can't say there's a major concern other than continuing to try to add depth, you know, because it's not conceivable to think you're going to go through a whole season without some injuries, you know, and when we have injuries, we don't want to have fall off, you know, we want to be able to keep on plugging. And so developing depth, I think, is probably the main thing.
So when you look back on year 1, how do you think that whole body of work should be viewed? It was obviously a huge step for the program, but I know you've been very clear about you're not content to go 6 and 7.
No, and I even hate saying 6 and 7. So what I've been saying is 6 and 6, and we lost the bowl. Okay, I'm trying to fool myself. Sorry, I spit on you there. Listen, I think we're moving in the right direction, and I think we have the right people in that building. You know, and that's the most exciting thing for me, and the most rewarding thing for me is, like, I know this. Like, every day I get up and I can't wait to get here and get to work with these people, whether it's our coaches, our staff, or our players. You know, every day you just feel an energy, and so I think excitement's high. I think hopes are high. I think along with that has come a real strong work ethic, and I've seen everyone raise their standard, and to me that's just, it's really exciting. You know, and listen, every season's a new season. Just because we started to have some success last year doesn't mean it's guaranteed this year. I think we have to keep raising the standard. As I've said many times, to me, besides just, you know, adding depth, is we need to continue to work on becoming a more mentally tough football team. And by that I mean a team that steps up and excels in the difficult moments in a game. You know, when the rubber hits the road, when you have to make a play, when you can't jump off sides, when you can't have self-inflicting wounds. And that happened too many times for us last year. And, you know, at this point in our program, you know, the margin of victory is going to be pretty small. And so we have to make sure that we're always mentally strong, mentally tough, mentally focused enough to not have those self-inflicted wounds.
Has it been a fun time for you with the men winning a championship to be part of this people's community? And is that healthy for your program to have an adjacent program?
For sure. Yeah, and I mean, everyone's focusing on basketball, as everyone should, because we just won a national championship. I mean, how awesome was that? Like, that was a cool night, you know, and it was a late night. And our practice the next morning wasn't the best practice we've ever had, okay, which was understandable because our team was so excited for, you know, the basketball team. But it's not just our men's basketball team. I mean, there's so many sports on this campus that are excelling right now, and there's so much excitement. You look over the Toscano family ice form, and they're just finally getting the finishing touches on. It's already beautiful, and there's a real energy around here right now, and you know, we've tried to capitalize on that. We've tried to add to it. We want to be a part of it, you know. We don't want to be the anchor, you know, and I think that's important to our guys. And we don't talk negatively like that, but our guys want they want to be a part of the excitement that's happening on this campus.
Coach, in year 2 of this revolution you called it last year, just how much easier was it to convince guys to buy in, like in the portal, and trying to bring in recruits this year coming into the season?
It's somewhat easier. It's still a challenge for us because the guys that we're competing for, because of where we want to take this program, are getting Power 5 offers, and that's just the way it is. And we'll get really close with some guys, and then a Power 5 team will jump in, and it's just that's something we can't compete against right now. But there's so many positives that are happening here, and so many positives on this campus in such a beautiful place, that at least we're in the game with those guys, and we're starting to make some breakthroughs. And that's the important thing. We're not going to lower our standards. We're going to keep going after those guys, and we're going to keep getting more and more. And this program is going to keep growing because that's our attitude. I said it when I got here. We're never going to concede, and we're not going to start conceding now. So, but yeah, I mean, it's easier to get someone on campus. That doesn't mean it's easier to get them. But we have well over 100 people at every practice so far this spring. I mean, the place is packed, and it wasn't like that before. So, we've just got to keep earning that.
Do you anticipate a lot more coming in? Over the summer?
I think we'll add a few. Yeah. We have a couple of official visitors here today. We have several coming in next week, and like I said, we have some spots that we have to fill, and we're working hard to do so.
How close did you come on meeting your expectations for this spring?
For the spring?
Yeah.
Close. I mean, I'm always trying to set somewhat unrealistic expectations so that I don't get comfortable. The thing that I feel good about and feel like we met was there was no complacency. There was no entitlement, which I always worry about. I use that word a lot with you guys and with the players. They don't feel like they've earned the right to have anything yet. They're still earning it. And their attitude, their effort, their work ethic, their focus, the fact that we compete like crazy. We don't have fights, we don't have a divisive locker room. We don't have a condescending attitude when we're out on the field towards each other. I think all those things are so important to building your team and your culture. So, I just saw it get stronger and stronger from where it was last year through the course of this spring, and that's impressive to me.
I'm sorry if you already talked about this, but your running back room seems to be, you talk about depth.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like the running back room has good depth to it, good quality depth. What do you like about that position for you guys?
Well, I like the depth because you're right. There's good depth, and I like that it's a diverse group in terms of what different skill sets each player brings to the table. You can just go right down the line, and Brian Bruton, just his patience and then his quickness at the line of scrimmage to get to the second level, and Devontae, his patience, his ability to find the crease, and then no one can catch him, and then Victor, who can get you a lot of tough yards. He's good in protection. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's really tough to bring down. Just kind of the epitome of what I think we are as a team, gritty. Adding Jalen, I think, has helped us. He's a 200 and almost 20-pound guy that can run with some power and has some burst. And then Cam Edwards, who we moved to running back during the season last year, has had a really good spring as well. So you're looking at 5 guys right there that have really impressed. And then I don't want to, Owen. See, I'm so bad at names sometimes when I get in front of you guys. But let me look at your thing here. Hunter Clark. Hunter Clark's a walk-on. All right, and he was like a scout team guy all last year. He played a little linebacker, he'd play a little tight end, he'd play a little running back, fullback. Well, we're using him kind of in that Rob Burns role. And all of a sudden you're going, dang, this Hunter Clark kid, he's a good player. So there's 6 legitimate players in that room of the 6 that are in the room. So we like that room.
What about Robert and Ian Swanson and those guys? You kept in touch with them?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I keep in touch with those guys here around. As a matter of fact, yesterday, I came home and he was washing his car in my front yard. So, I stay in touch with those guys. I'm excited to see what's next for them. The draft is next weekend. I don't know how many guys will get drafted, but I think that several of them have a chance to go compete at the next level. I'll certainly do all I can to help them, get signed as a free agent if they don't get drafted, or get a tryout if they don't get signed as a free agent. I think that that's part of my responsibility to help them get to that next level. And I know they've all been working hard. They all came back. They had really good pro days. So it's always exciting to see what's going to happen. It's fun, graduation and the draft, they happen so quick. You see a guy walk across the stage, get his diploma, and then move on to the next level athletically. It's a pretty rewarding time as a coach.
Who was it you said who was washing his car?
Marquez, Pembry. He's sitting over there. I forgot he was going to be there. I pull up, washing his car, got his music playing. My garage door's open. He knows the code to my house.
Did he do yours?
No, I didn't do mine. Might make him do that. But, that's kind of what we're all about here, to be honest with you, is I think a lot of people and a lot of teams preach family, but being here in Stores, and especially with the young men we have on our team and the attitude they have and like the wholesome, they're wholesome. They're blue collar. It's just different vibe. It truly is it's a family environment here. And I think that's probably what makes it so fun for me at this point in my career and my life, is to have this opportunity to coach these types of young men. It's pretty incredible.
Are you still living in the haunted house?
Yeah, I kicked the ghosts out though, so it's not haunted anymore.
Jim, what would be the one thing you want to see today that it would represent a success for you?
No injuries would be great. Some consistency on defense, some consistency on offense, in terms of no busts, good healthy competition. I don't consider a good practice a practice where the offense lights up the defense, or the defense kicks around the offense, kind of looking at the execution more than anything. But I'd like to get out of here healthy. I'd like the fans to come away saying, hey, they got some good players. They made some progress. I'd like our players to feel positive about what happened today. And, just a consistency in the level of execution when I go back and look at the film would make me feel good.
One more. Everyone's got it. All right.
We just appreciate you guys all being out here. It means a lot to me and to our players as well. They
Good to
get
see you.
fired up.
Thanks for the time.
All right, thanks
Appreciate it,
everybody.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Hey, Coach, let Mom see Hunter Clark play, please.
I just said his name.
Yeah.
Did I not? Did you hear me say his
I was
name?
walking by, I heard it.
Did I not just talk about